I probably would have loved the military just because you make your bed perfectly. Everything is like executed perfectly. Another thing we haven't mentioned is just sort of God is not a central part of our life in this country as it used to be. And I think that's what's really going on, a spiritual crisis. I was in a restaurant and this soldier came in. Well, he wasn't just a soldier, he was a lieutenant colonel and well-known one too. I looked him up because I saw his name tag. Of course, I have a lot of respect for soldiers, and I always say something. I know you guys don't like to be thanked, but I thank you guys anyways, but constantly. But he prayed before he ate with his family, and I told my wife, I was like, my grandfather used to do that with us. My grandparents raised my brother and sister and I partly. We spent a lot of time with them, and they would pray before each meal. And I told my wife, I said, I want to start doing that, even if it's something really simple, to make God a part of your fabric, your daily life. I think if your religion is making you kill people, I think there's something wrong with that. I can't even fathom how someone can call themselves a believer in anything and do something like that. We got to look at our behavior as a clue as to how spiritually evolved we are. And look, I have a long road to go in terms of that. But yeah, that's the other thing. I think making God part of our daily life can change a lot of the things that we're talking about in this call. It's also part of the movies I want to do. What am I trying to say with my movie? Although my present movie and the one before that was almost 90 minutes of swearing, but
Right.
that was out of my control. I just chose certain subjects, but I don't want to make a movie where I feel the need I have to do that unless it's part of the character or something. But a lot of these movies you see in Hollywood are made by people that you can tell just don't have any sort of spiritual life at all, because these movies, these scenes leave you with this empty, rotten feeling where you're scared and you think everyone's evil and the world's a bad place, and there's just so much. Those are the kind of people that are telling stories now, and you just know they're not the kind of person that would pray for and be thankful for their food at the dinner table. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
but filmmakers used to be that way, and look at the movies they made then when God was part of their fabric. I just had to bring up God just because that's what's missing. That's what's missing.
That's really good stuff. I'm glad you did. And for, like you said, it could be as simple as, hey, saying a prayer of thanks before you eat, accepting and respecting that you are provided with this meal that's going to nourish you, that's going to give you energy, that's going to keep you alive, that's going to help you do whatever it is that you do during the day. And for those that maybe
when you sit down and you pray, it's a physiological thing. Your body changes, your chemistry changes. And I practiced Buddhism. Look, for a long time, I would go on these retreats in the desert with these like Zen monks. And then I kind of stopped doing that because I saw a little hypocrisy there with some of the people. And then I just went on a different path. Came back to the church. But I remember sitting there in the desert in Utah meditating. And when you do that, it's the same thing when you're in a pew with your rosary. You stop and you get outside of yourself and you bring that peace into your life and say, what can I do to make this a better place for everybody else? Then you go outside and you mess everything up and you don't do what you say you did and you act like a jerk, but that's being human, right? But always try to get back to that every day so that you do that less and less, and you create those positive cells in your body and the people around you. I mean, that's what we need to be doing in movies and music and art, and whatever work you're doing. If you're a stonemason making a building, just each brick is like love. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like You know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, in other ways, I talk about, like, your frequency that you're vibrating on or things like that, and, like, trauma, PTSD, depression, that brings you into, like, these lower, baser states where you're more of an animal than you are of an expressive human because our physiology kinda can trap us there, and it sounds like, to me, what you're saying is you are wanting to have more venues, more avenues, more things that people are exposed to every day that helps them spiral up into those
Mhm.
better vibrations, those better feelings, peace, hope,
Mm.
kindness, goodwill to others, all of these things. So it sounds like the hope potentially is more people see this, more people experience it. It's an easier myelin. You know what I mean? Like our nervous system makes these pathways for what we do, and we train to be able to draw our gun real fast and shoot, you know? But I feel like it also applies to like some of these deeper emotional states, like gratitude, right? If I'm always thinking pessimistic thoughts, that's the easy train to get on, right?
I think imperfection is a huge part of the development process, especially just saying to yourself, like, I'm not going to be perfect. I think I probably would have loved the military just because you can make your bed perfectly. Everything is like executed perfectly. But just to tell yourself it's not perfect, but I'm going to get back to that perfection. Like I fell off that road and this got a little messy and like boom, I'm back. Just like in a good movie, it's like you're moving towards the light, but you're going to go through some dark shit to get there,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
conflict and like continuous conflict with yourself, with people, just like conflict's never going to stop. So like how do you move through that and just keep going forward and just getting right back? I don't know. That's the challenge of life that makes it worth living and so exciting. It's just how do you tackle that? Because the conflict, it seems like as I get older, gets heavier and heavier. I mean, I don't know if it's like God throwing more at me because he knows I can handle it, but that's the beauty of things. Just like in a good movie, that character is going to go through greater and greater conflict to get to that crisis moment is almost going to break him. But then he comes out on the other side and he brings back this like reward for the world. Every movie is like that, is that heroic journey. That's why I
Mhm.
love what you guys do because you do that for your job.
That's so cool. Yeah, I like the way that you framed all of that. Great director, you know what I mean? Very clear example of why you're so great director is because you framed that so well for us of just knowing, "Hey, yeah, things are messy, things are dirty. There's gonna be darkness, there's gonna be grit that we've gotta get through," and some of, like, the gore or whatever, gore and horror. But on the other side of that, like you said, a gift, there's the reason for it all. So yeah, I thank you for framing it like that. It was fantastic. So, with kind of that being said, what are some of your visions moving forward for kind of like the work that you're hoping to do? From what we've kind of talked about, hey, you were wanting to tell the story about President Trump. You want to tell the story about him, the man that people don't know. And was that about changing somebody's vote or maybe just shifting the way that people viewed President Trump as a human being?
Well,
What would you want somebody to walk
the
away from
relentless
listening?
patriot came out of my need to express what I was feeling politically, and then
Okay.
that led to the Trump documentary where I got hired to direct. It was sort of envisioned by Joshua Machello, producer who I work with now. We have a lot of stuff that we wanna do moving forward, and I was part of bringing his mission to life to show President Trump in a different light. I mean, we literally encountered hundreds of stories, so many that we couldn't even fit in the movie of good things that he's done, So it's
Mhm.
just, it offered something different in a time when everybody and their mother would try to find any kind of dirt on this guy to stop him because he threatened whatever existence they built their life on. And so it was also very controversial. Now, what do I want to do moving forward? Well, what am I doing right now? I'm finishing this documentary I can't talk about. That'll be my last highly political thing for a little while. But I got hired to adapt this book called The Stowaway in First Class about an Italian immigrant in the 20s. I don't want to give away too much. It was actually written by an Air Force veteran, Tony DeSantis. He's such an amazing guy, such a nice guy. So right now I have the dream job, which is a writing job, writing a script from a great book that was already written kind of cinematically and telling the immigrant story. It's awesome because I get to go back to the 20s and think about this guy who wanted to come to America. And it just makes you fall in love with the country again. Now, the way he got here, you're going to have to wait and see. But it's a great project. That's a movie that I'm going to want to direct. It's a period movie. I mean, it's going to be a huge budget, at least like $8 million probably, or 5 or something, however much we can do it for. But Oscars, great. But this movie that I'm writing, I've seen movies like this that won Oscars and that I can tell already this is going to be better. And then there's a writer in Wyoming named Chilton Williamson, who has written a bunch of books and some Westerns, one that was just released called The Last Westerner that I want to adapt into a movie. And then there's a Special Forces Green Beret Vietnam vet named Ray Morris, who is a real mentor, father figure, great friend who passed away, who wrote another Western series of books called Gone to Texas about the Texas Rangers that I want to also adapt into either a movie or a series. There's a script that is part of my online film course that I've been writing that's sort of like a romantic comedy type thing, dark comedy. It's taken me forever to write. I'm still writing it. I'm ashamed to tell you how long I've been working on this. So I'm just going to avoid that topic. But that I will make. But it's been a challenging script to write. And then, there's some other stuff. There's a horror film that I wrote. I'm kind of conflicted on that one because it's very bloody and this is where I have to decide what I said about what am I putting out in the world. So I have to think kind of morally, ethically, if that's something I want to make. But I did write a very violent horror movie. I'm not sure if I want to get that made or not. And then, there's other stuff. There's sort of this elderly nursing home story that a friend of mine wrote that I want to do. But for the most part, I want to focus on kind of $5 to $8 million, maybe $3 million. Oh, there's one more project. She's going to be mad that I didn't mention this. So Barb Allen, who was in Dear Mom, she played the mom. So I am directing her script called How to Woo a Widow, which is like a chick flick. Now, I'm really excited about this. So she wrote it. It's a great script. We've been kind of developing it. I'm putting the budget together for that. That's going to be like a $3 million movie that we'll raise money for, that we'll shoot in like upstate New York. But for the most part, these are all just straight up narrative films, not political in nature, just sort of adult driven dramas, good storytelling.
That's great. I'm excited to see all of them. You've got plenty of material to work with, lots of irons in the fire. I'm excited to see what you hammer out, especially
Mostly
whenever.
my kids are what I want to work on, because we spoke about all this other nonsense, but really what it comes down to is them. We're up against so much as parents, and I want to raise them and try to instill and not force upon them, but instill the kind of values that we're talking about here. And I have so many friends that are vets that can take us out and we can go do stuff like fishing and, camping and maybe hunting one day. My wife won't like that too much, but ATV stuff and just getting out there and getting dirty and cold. And that's what I really want to do, is show my kids all these great people that did experience all these great things, that know how to do these things that these computers, these iPads will never teach you how to really do unless you're doing it with your hands, and that's what my future really looks like when it all, aside from all the movies and everything, just showing them the important things.
That's awesome. It's so needed now. I think families are really the cornerstone of society, of fabric. Having a strong family unit that's capable, educated is invaluable as we kind of move into this rapidly approaching future.
My kid just felt like this was a great turning point because, like, he watches on his iPad and, on the TV, just like nonsense. What I was talking about, it's like children's content created by people that you would not want to have dinner with.
Yeah.
And just so much of this nonsense. Yesterday, I turned on Gilligan's Island for him and he fell in love with it. So he's been watching these episodes and I just love it. I feel so damn comfortable because I know that, look, I wish we were out fishing, but sometimes you got to pass the time. But I'm just glad that he's watching something that was made during a time in America where people still had their head on straight. It's funny, like Gilligan's funny. These characters are all
Mhm.
great. So I love that he loves this old show. That's my new favorite thing.
That's great. Yeah, that's and being able to connect with them with things that were in your past, in your history, and being able to experience that with your kids has got to be super fulfilling. So you're the man in the arena. You are driving these projects forward. You are treading through some waters that I've never seen anyone really take. So it's been really cool to see your journey, see you take on these big projects. But for the young filmmaker or artist who's listening, maybe they're terrified to speak their mind because they want a career at Netflix or whatever. What would your advice be to them? Is it better for them to be safe and employed or dangerous and free?
You have to decide if you're going to be a filmmaker or a craftsperson. Basically, you have to decide if you're going to create your own destiny or if your destiny is going to be made by other people.
That's
That's
powerful.
you have to ultimately decide that. Okay? So, if you are going to be a filmmaker, then you have to do whatever you want. I mean, you have to create your own destiny. If that involves being highly political and pushing people's buttons, then you need to go. You don't have to do that on purpose just to get a rise out of people. But if that's your mission to tell political stories, then you got to go for it, and create your own destiny and just know that if you're meant to be doing that, you will be doing it and you'll always be able to put food on the table. Coming from a family of artists, that was the great thing. It drove me crazy because, like, everyone in my family is flaky. We're all like creative types, unreliable. But when you come from a family of artists, you know that there's like, you're meant to be doing this. Like, God gave you a purpose, just like someone in the military or, law enforcement. Like, they know the risks, they know the danger, but that's what they do. And it's the same thing in the arts. Like, that you got to dive into the unknown and not know where your next meal is going to come from. And it's like every day I wake up and I'm like, what am I going to do? But then something always comes. So if you're doing political stuff and you're pissing people off, but you're making great work, I mean, if your work sucks, then you should be worried. But like, if you're going to alienate people, make sure that you know what you're doing. Take my course, in filmmaking, but make sure it's good. But on the flip side of that, like, I loved John Cassavetes. Like, go on YouTube and look up John Cassavetes Television Rant, and you'll see why I love this guy. I mean,
Television
he
rant.
he hated Hollywood and he was the godfather of independent cinema. If he didn't get into a film festival, he'd show up and show his film at the venue across the street from the festival just to piss them off. He would sell his films out of the back of his car, like, you have to be that person who won't take no for an answer. And filmmaking is conflict. Like, I'm in conflict with somebody on the film that I'm on right now, but that's what you signed up for. The thing is like, I think Ingmar Bergman, who's another one of my favorite filmmakers, said it. Like, if you want to make movies, you have to know it's not going to be easy. There's going to be major conflict involved. It's going to be hard. NYU film class dropped out. So, but you have to protect the story. So if you're the director and there's people trying to undermine what you're doing, then you need to show some cojones and stand up for this story, that you can't just be a pushover. So that's the other thing. So if you're going to go the filmmaker route, you have to be all in and just go for it. And this was not me. Like, this is why I'm not in LA, because the flip side is, are you going to be an employee or part of a system, a cog in the wheel, or, a craftsperson or a crew member or whatever you want to call it, or even a director who's working in the studio system? He has to make everyone happy. If that's you, then do not get into politics. Obviously, play the game and play it well, and you'll probably make more money than I ever did. And, you'll probably go farther than I ever did. But I can sit back, like today in my new house, and I'm like looking at the TV going, holy crap, I've got like 8 movies on there that weren't easy to make by any means. And I poured all my life savings into these things. And like, that's pretty cool. Like, not many people, that were in theaters, and
Right.
I don't know. Like, so that's me. Like, I needed to go and just say, I'm going to get this done without anybody. Like, I hate waiting for people. You're a filmmaker if, like, you're not going to wait for somebody to green light your movie. You're not going to wait for funding. I didn't wait for funding on any of my movies. I just went out there and I started rolling the camera. If you have a camera and it's collecting dust, then you've got a problem if you call yourself a filmmaker, because that thing should be rolling. You should be out there shooting it yourself, editing it yourself. But if you're a craftsperson, like my sister is a costume designer. Like, she does Super Bowl commercials, and she has dressed Marlon Brando, like huge stars. And she's made more money than I'll ever see in my life, but because she can work the system. Like, she's good about not being political. In Hollywood, you can voice your opinions politically just as long as you're not a conservative. But so there's hypocrisy. But if you play the game properly, then you can go really far, also. So that's another avenue,
Nice. You touch on the Hollywood hypocrisy. So I had something that I was considering doing, but since you said, I'm just going to go with it. Help me finish this sentence. The biggest lie Hollywood tells itself about freedom of speech is.
What's going on right now. I mean, that's why I made The Relentless Patriot. That's why I got pissed off, is because, and this is what Trump kind of brought to the light. So wait, you can be on a film set, working as a makeup artist or a grip or something, and you can stand around and talk about Trump in between shots for hours and hours and hours, and you can still keep your job. But I can't even tell you that I'm a Republican. Forget about saying this or that and all these vile things that people say when they're talking about Trump. Forget about all that. I know I can't say that, but if I say that I'm just a Republican, I'm done. Like, my career's over. There's something wrong with that. When you fought, Brent, so that we could say what we want whenever we want, have freedom of speech. If I say I'm a Christian, same thing, I'm done. That's not the United States, and there's something wrong with that. So I'm kind of at peace with it now, but it really made me sick for a while, because it's so ass backwards, that there's so much allowed on the other side that's not allowed on our side. Here's what I haven't said. The point is that like in 2019, when I got political and everything, I kind of knew where things were going. Like, I could sense it. I got an email from Amazon, and there's no white males in this advertisement. It's everything but, especially no straight white males. So like they're kind of like rewriting things in a way where we're just not even in the picture anymore, you know? So like as a straight white male filmmaker, like I guess in 2019 I could tell where things were going, okay? And I would have never been let in that system regardless. You know what I'm saying? So I took this other road because I already knew that that road was going nowhere. And look, right now the film industry is in people are changing careers. Like people in LA are not working. People are done. And I
Wow.
probably would have been done 4 or 5 years ago had I not taken this road. So follow your gut. I mean, that's the golden rule of filmmaking. Follow your gut, and that will tell you exactly what you need to do. That will tell you how to make a good movie, you know, and that will tell you how to make a good career.
I like that. Whenever in my life, if I kind of think about that, the times that I followed my gut, things worked out well. You know what I mean? Yeah, there was friction. Sometimes there was obstacles. I'm not saying it was just like a yellow brick road, but things worked well. Then the times that I pushed that away and I didn't follow my gut and I said, oh, well, I'll be more trusting or I'll open myself up to this, even though it just didn't feel right. Tragedy all the time. You know what I mean? Like the train went off the rails. Things went
It's
very poorly.
when you make a movie, it's like having a child and raising a child from infancy, okay?